G'day, guys. Welcome to another HashItOut. This week, we're going to be discussing ErgoHack. We've had a number of, we've had five actually, just with this one coming to conclusion. I think we've seen a number of projects come out of it, and it's awesome to see that sort of the community rally and start putting out all these open source projects and things like that. So let's discuss ErgoHack this week.
Sure. Let's start from the basics, right? Ergo is a ecosystem that is very committed to open source tooling. And what that requires is documentation, right? And one thing that ErgoHack has continually basically provided is an opportunity for new developers to come in, touch Ergo for the first time and give us feedback. What is it like to build on Ergo? What are we missing? What kind of documentation do we need? What kind of tools are lacking, what works, what doesn't work, right? And so from a high level, even beyond the beauty of like the competition and the great ideas that come out, ErgoHack is something that really refines the ecosystem. And so I think that every time we go through this process of having a hackathon, we become a better open source network that's friendlier to new developers. And, so like long term, I would love to see some sort of open source cookbook, how to build on Ergo, right? With all the contracts and tools and frameworks that are out there, maybe even scaling solutions one day, so that if a new developer out there wants to come and build on Ergo, they can hop in really quick and see what's up.
Yeah. So Noah, you've had first-hand experience with this ErgoHack 5. Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown of sort of the project that you've delivered yourself and your experience being involved in ErgoHack?
Sure. I've been watching them since, I think, the second one. I think I kind of came into the community just after the first one had happened. And ErgoHacks were always kind of something that I would look forward to. I think it's a really exciting time for the community, just seeing the ideas that people come up with. Yep. And like Joe said, the sort of mind share aspect of it is so valuable, and winning prizes is great, and it's good to have incentives, but the ability to create open source documentation and ideas for people to then take and build off of other people's ideas. That's the real value, I think. And this ErgoHack 5, I was interested in just the whole EIP 37 difficulty adjustment thing. It got me thinking a lot about miner governance, and wanted to come up with a way to educate and demonstrate how the process works in a simpler way, because we have documentation about it on the docs website, but it's a little bit hard to understand for a layman, or I say layman, I would say in this case a miner might be a layman. Like a lot of miners don't understand the nitty-gritty technical details of how a chain works necessarily. So but they're technically minded in other ways. So I wanted to create something that would help people better understand it. And in the process of trying to make it, I have learned a lot about on-chain governance myself, and I'm still learning even after submitting this project. But so it's called,
I think that's a great point,
ISO.
because like
go ahead.
ERP 37 and the merge itself was basically a good introduction to miner governance, I think, on Ergo and the parameters that people have control of. People coming from Ethereum, where it's kind of you just point your rigs and kind of set and forget in some respect, whereas it's a little bit more hands-on here at Ergo. And the project you put together demonstrates the control that the miners have of a number of different parameters that's built into the protocol itself.
Yeah, and it's not the sexiest project or the most technical, or most ambitious project, but I think it provides some usefulness to the community. And
Educational tool, man.
yeah,
Educational tools matter,
yeah.
especially if someone's starting from zero. Otherwise, they got to dig into docs, and learning can be boring. Having a tool like that is a great idea.
Yeah, I was really inspired by the Sigma USD sort of tool that you can use to play around with the reserve. Because, I mean, Sigma USD is so hard to understand. Even after 2 years of being in this community, I still don't really understand the nuts and bolts of it. But at least being able to play with a thing where you can put in some values and calculate sort of what's going on, it's useful. And it's kind of in a working state. There's still a lot that needs to be done for it to really be useful to people, but it was a fun exercise going through the ErgoHack process after watching so many. And I would encourage everyone, I'm not a technical person really when it comes to development. I don't know anything, but teamed up with a front-end developer, and I had my idea. I drew up some mock-ups, just doing my best in Figma because I don't really know what I'm doing. But we came up with something cool, and people have good ideas, and I would encourage everyone to look forward to the next one in the future.
So what can we learn from your experience, Noah? Like, how can we make it better? What do you think is, I don't know, ErgoHack 6, what should we improve on the back end for like a contestant?
Well, it's a funny question because I helped organize this one a little bit. So maybe it's a loaded question, but something that I would like to see improved, and I'm likely going to be helping on the next one. So I've been thinking about this stuff for weeks now, but I think having some sort of educational funnel. Like I remember a few iterations back, we came out with the ErgoHack.io website, and on that website there's a resources section with all these really nice graphics.
It's a bit of a timeline sort of thing. So if you have no understanding whatsoever, it has a bit of an introduction, and then sort of works its way down into pretty much ErgoScript itself. So it's a great resource there. I think that's also underutilized.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, maybe... I think right now there's a bit of a divide between like the developer community and the side of things where we're like putting the event together. And trying to find a way to sort of bring all of these resources to a more accessible space, whether it's like a repository of just like all the SDKs we have, just like a list in a Discord channel, because that's where everyone hangs out, is on Discord. Things like that, things really simple, just like
It just sort of correlate all the resourcing that's required, and just have it all at the fingertips. So we've got a number of SDKs now with like Sigma.js, there's Fleet, there's the app kit itself.
We've got a Rust SDK now too.
Yep. So basically anyone can kind of pick their poison as long as it's all there in a nice format. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. What else? Something that we've been thinking about, just as like, maybe this is too nuts and bolts, but I feel like a lot of our developers in the community are already working on things. So, it's a tough thing in the current market conditions trying to find new devs out there. But I would love to somehow expand outward from the developers that we have in our community already. It's a tough thing to do, especially right now. But that's kind of where my mind is at.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
So probably a good idea also to approach the devs and see what they actually need or require, or see what they want to be built out also in regards to the tooling side, or which way they could see the community benefit from a new person coming in to the ecosystem, whether that's documentation or SDKs or yeah, you name it sort of thing. I think it'd be good to get their aspect also, or perspectives.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things long term. That's it's just underappreciated, right? I think the right way to grow is you have good SDKs, good frameworks in terms of open source documentation. Then you get good developers, and good developers build good products, and then good products get users, and then that kind of creates its own marketing mind share of its own.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of the times in crypto, we're gonna market, and then we're gonna get users, and then you know what I mean? It's like completely backwards. And the ErgoHack is really it's just a great way to strengthen the core, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So I think
Did either of you? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just give a bit of a rundown of like the history of ErgoHack itself. We've seen almost 50 projects come through over 5 hackathons. Of those, we've seen basically or roughly about 50% turnaround in regards to delivering a live product or something that's currently still a work in progress and actively being worked on. And we're upwards of around roughly 81,000 US dollars in prize money over those 5 also. And that's taking into account the co-sponsors and everything of ErgoHack 5 itself. So I think that's pretty cool. Over, I think it's about 15 months or so, we've been running these 5 hackathons, and it's a nice turnaround in regards to the projects that have been delivered. And I think it's a pretty reasonable amount of money also for providing incentives to do so.
Yeah, and one thing I would love to see is like long term, like let's say we're here in 3 years, right, having this conversation. I would love to see even applications host Ergo hacks and say, hey guys, this is like the open source component that our application needs. Like, let's pull in the community and build. So I hope that always is a part of like the Ergo ecosystem's ethos, to have community engagement, open source tooling, and some incentive to draw people in. I know there's been a lot of conversion even where developers have come into the ecosystem, participated in ErgoHack, and ended up working for either a DApp or some project in some regard. So it's also a great like introduction in terms of potential employment as well. And yeah, right now markets kind of suck, right? But long term, I think things have their own trend, right? And so everything that we do now will serve us in the future once things shift around.
Yeah, that actually brought a tweet to my just to my mind there that Jenny put out actually, and it's the little meme. One half of the screen, you've got crypto Twitter with basically their hands in their faces in regards to the market sentiment and sort of everything that's going on the macro side. And on the other side, the right-hand side, you've got basically a room full of computers and people in there, and people stressing about not being able to keep engaged in everything that's happening on Ergo. And I think the hackathon this time around also, people are feeling that way also.
Yeah, I've been a little busy, so I need to catch up.
I wanted to ask, have either of you guys had ideas that you've put forth for ErgoHack? I don't
Sure, I've tried in the past.
Oh yeah, what was it?
Yeah. So let's see. I know one of them, at least even for this one, had to do with building a mining node on top of Ergo, trying to get a different wallet. Yeah. I've also talked about the potential to package dApps and have them kind of built as plugins on the full node. That way you kind of move back towards like the mixer, where you can run your full node yourself, run your application logic yourself, be your own let's say full node and application, backend.
Yeah. Was that a ErgoSphere that you're talking about? The
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
umbrel.
yeah. There's been a couple of different attempts at it. I haven't seen it, pop out yet. But sure, I always try anyway to
Yeah.
like throw out ideas in terms of what could be built. And the truth is, there's a lot there that you could look at, like Delphi, that came together, one of the previous Ergo hacks. I do think that there's a lot of room to run there once Oracle V2 finishes off, right? So sometimes like the core team or the tooling around the core is the actual bottleneck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny how many like exciting and interesting projects there are that just haven't been finished. And I hope one day they will be. We'll see.
Yeah.
One that I'm really intrigued by is the inheritance,
Mhm.
decentralized inheritance. I think that's so interesting. And
it's something that people need to really actually think about in regards to crypto also, because if a significant other does pass away, or you're leaving something to your grandkids, or the whole crypto side of it, if you pass away and you take your private keys with you, there's no access to everything. So it's something that's I think it's under discussed or underutilized in regards to the crypto space at this time.
Yeah. Well, ErgoHack to me is always just kind of built on the open source ethos of our ecosystem, right? And I think that actually is one of the most interesting experiences. I've kind of been doing the whole conference deal these last couple of weeks, and most of the developers that I came to, they were like, oh, we're interested, maybe we'll build on Ergo, and I know some of them probably wanted like a subsidy from the foundation to come and build. And I'd always just be like, listen, a lot of what you're talking about already exists, and it's already open source. So if you come in and you have a good idea, you have a ton to review, that's already out there that will just accelerate your own development. And I think that long term, that's underappreciated. I don't think we've really reached critical mass yet, where all of a sudden things start growing in, let's say, at a rate that you just can't track. I'm sure that's happened in the past with something like Solidity, but they did a very, very, very good job of having open source frameworks, good software development kits, and tutorials. And so, I've said many times, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to improve that core, and then you'll get good developers, you'll get good products, and ultimately those products will attract users.
I think we're up to the stage also where we've had a number of projects who even have participated in ErgoHack that are actually coming to the stage where they're actually going to be released. One of those that comes to mind is Night Owl, and that should be released in the coming days. I haven't heard any updates. I think they threw out there that I think it was the 18th or so. And then there's duck pools. There's a number of things that's sort of just coming off the top of my head where it does actually allow user experience and user interaction with the dApps themselves. So I think it's cool to actually see like a product come out of ErgoHack that is open source. They themselves have provided open source tooling with like the React dApp connector, which a lot of projects are sort of utilized also. Seeing all that just start coming to life, I think it's fantastic for the ecosystem.
It's like a type of momentum, right? Mm-hmm. And I that's what gets me the most excited. Like every project that participated in ErgoHack, whether it's this one or the previous ones, whether they won or not, we appreciate the momentum, right? And that's just good for the community. It's good for everybody.
Something that I'd like to mention is each hackathon has had kind of a different theme.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's the first one was Hack for Change, the second one was Social Transformation, and then we had Privacy and Security, and then ErgoHack Fest was a little different. It didn't have a specific theme, but it was a longer one. And then this current one has been mining and minting. And I think in each of the themed ones, we did have at least one or two that were related to the theme, which was really cool. And in this past one, we had several. I think we had we had mine. We had City, which is pretty cool. SNISP, yeah, that was another one. EIP 38.
Yep.
Wilford did a bunch of good work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been cool to see new mining ideas and projects, and in the wake of the merge, now that things have settled a bit, seeing what developers can kind of bring to the table.
That's great. It's also good to mention that we do have co-sponsors. So we do have Alephium, Jed, and Flux. And we do have a couple of projects who have actually released on Flux. Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown on those, Noah?
Yeah, so far I've seen Obel Flip, which is decentralized coin flip. It's pretty neat, honestly. It's integrated into the mobile wallet, and you run an application locally on your computer, and you just enter the URL on your phone. And I think it works like every up to 100 participants can bet, or it'll run for 24 hours. And if 100 people haven't gone, then it'll flip the coin, and whoever bet on the right one gets a payout. It's kind of neat. And then so they launched on Flux, and then the City mineable smart contract also launched a front end on Flux as well. Can we talk about that one? Because I don't fully understand that project, but it strikes me as very interesting, and I'm curious if you guys have read much about it.
I've covered it a couple of times in the dev update, and basically what they do is allow to so when you mint a token ID, basically you just get a string of numbers, letters, characters, etc. What they're proposing is you being able to define a string, and you want that mined. So then you provide the miner incentive to return whatever you want on that token ID. So they say your project itself, it releases a token, say Peso or something along those lines. You can define the token ID to start with Peso, and then you provide the miner incentive to then return that token ID itself. So a lot of computation does have to go into that. I think they're trying to figure out a way to kind of pool resources and trying to lighten that load on, say, a single miner itself. But yeah, it's a really interesting concept, and could provide a number of different utilities moving forward.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I could see I know on Ravencoin they have sub assets and things like that. I could see this, I'm not going to frickin' tokenize Paizo, but let's say I made a token for Paizo. You could have several different Paizo tokens, each that have their own sort of starting string, and then different sub tokens. That's super interesting. That's cool. Yeah, and it's an incentive for miners. That's great.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the amount of work that does have to go into it, I think the incentive there is reasonably high. Obviously, depending on how many characters you actually want that's the start of that string to be. I think they've worked out. I think they actually mined something that's 32 characters, but yeah, don't quote me on that. I'd have to go back and read the logs. But yeah, on the example themselves, I think they have 6 C's, so CCC, CCC, just as an example, and they mine that token ID itself.
I'm not a judge, so I can speak with a bias, but I feel like that project captures mining and minting pretty much as perfectly as anybody could.
Exactly. Number of different use cases moving forward. Also, whether that's sort of something that could be seen as somewhat superficial in some respect by basically having your name and the token ID itself. I think it could go a long way for NFTs, especially by having the minting address or the token ID. People know it's you, basically. So obviously, with the minting side of things, you've got a number of NFTs with different token IDs themselves, with unique IDs being NFTs. So yeah, I dare say the incentive there would be pretty significant to do so for that mint. But yeah,
and if the cost to create that token is high enough, that's a pretty large disincentive for scammers to create duplicates or things like that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So yeah, could see a number of different use cases come out of that just from that utility itself.
And then Joe, I know you have to be careful what you say because you're
I'm one of the judges.
And you're yeah. I was just curious if you had read much about EIP-38. And
a little bit. Wilford is a champ. I've always enjoyed discussing governance and just Ergo in general with him. So I haven't dove into it totally, but I'm definitely going to. And being that it's coming from Wilford, I know it's probably going to be some good ideas.
Yeah,
he was fairly well engaged in the hack itself, the ErgoHack itself. He had a number of sort of comments jumping into the SNF side of things, and even I think he even mentions that in his own submission itself on EIP-38, which could utilize it in some respect on the governance side. But yeah, don't quote him on that. I'd have to go back and read about it all completely. Yeah,
it was cool. I think he was even trying to use Paizo to sort of help do tests and things like that. So, awesome. ErgoHack is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
He's always been a huge community asset.
Yeah. With that project specifically, I think the idea, and CW, I know you've read about this a bit, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea is that it gives miners the option to participate in governance even if they decide that they don't want to vote for like a soft fork or something like that. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I believe it has to do with flexibility in governance.
Yeah,
I haven't. I just got back from the whole conference.
Yeah. So I know.
I haven't dug in fully. But yeah, if it's something that I need to, he's going to build, I'm happy to talk to mining pools to build out that functionality for miners, because why not, right? Benefits everybody.
Yeah, so it's partial voting, so they can partially support a change for indicative voting. It will enable mining pools to pass along true governance power to their miners. So it's basically kind of the one miner, one vote scenario. So yeah, a method for mining voting within a pool, like such as the proof of vote sort of side of it that GetBlock initially brought to life.
Interesting. Yeah, I have to read more about that one.
Yeah. I've read the description. That was a little sort of synopsis there, but diving into the final submission, I'll be a lot more in depth there.
Yeah, maybe we can go through a brief rundown just to give everybody a little bit of respect.
Sure.
I've just got a list here. We've got Dum Dum Dum, which I think is a hilarious name, and I kind of hope they keep it as Dum Dum Dum. But basically that one is a decentralized on-chain social media platform similar to Twitter. And it uses...
You own your tweets on the kind of NFT it.
Yeah, it mints the tweets as on-chain NFT data. And then, if you want to delete a tweet, it burns the NFT. It would still be on-chain, so the history would be on-chain. But yeah, it gives you ownership over the messages that you put out into the world. And that's a pretty cool one. That's Keith from Deco. He did really good work on that. I was kind of following his work there.
One of the devs of Excel also.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's City, one we touched on earlier.
Mm-hmm. You want to
Audit?
Yeah, go ahead. Explain that one.
So what's Ergo Audit? So basically bringing the infrastructure for the ecosystem sort of through providing an audit platform and they're going to run it basically as a DAO setup. So need to jump into the project itself for more info, but I think that's a bit of a overview of what that one is.
Yeah, I think it provides rewards for auditing. I don't know, the technical. It's a complicated thing when you get into, DAOs and verifying that what you've actually contributed is useful. But I'm sure they've thought about it. I saw they had quite a lot of documentation, so I'm excited to see that.
And then there's the DLOP art generator. So they generate 1010s art pieces. So it's basically, I think they've actually integrated Ruby into that one. And I think Nemo also had some input regarding SVG passing for the graphics side also. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes to life. I think Dark Lords actually provided a final submission also. I think I saw that on Twitter not long ago.
Yeah, you can go and play with it. It's up and running. You just put in a word or a sentence and it generates an image based off of it. It's kind of cool. And then we have Ergo Payroll, which maybe you can talk about this one, CW, because you were on the dev update with QX and he talked about it a bit there.
Yeah, so it's basically just a payroll system. So you can define a list of sort of like your staff list and then their remuneration sort of side of things. And you can kind of set it up to automate. I think it's fantastic. So it just takes a lot of the sort of the single input side of it that sort of you traditionally do with regarding sending someone a payment or a team of payments. So if you've got a development team or like an NFT side of things, or however you have things set up, you can have basically that set up to for recurring payments and things like that, just like a traditional payroll system. So it could be utilized by anyone in the ecosystem. I think that's a great utility, something that often sort of is overlooked.
It's really one of the benefits of UTXO. One penny.
Yeah. They can build the transaction one at a time, basically, and pay multiple parties. It's fantastic.
We had ObelFlip, which we already talked about a bit. That was the coin flipping app, DApp, I should say, because it is a locally run decentralized app. It's not an app.
Not on a server.
What was that?
So it's not just on a server somewhere. You get it run locally.
That's right.
Awesome.
Yep. And then we had, I don't know if they actually made anything, but we had Sigma balls that they were coming up with some options thing. I'm not sure if they actually
options trading contract sort of side of it.
I know they put together some designs, but I don't know if they actually built anything.
Yep.
You're gonna mention SNISP, I think.
Yeah, SNISP. I think this is kind of a pretty big one. So it's succinct, non-interactive share proof. So it's basically a way for miners to prove the work that they've put into solving a block or a puzzle itself. So I think that it's basically the mining pool is determining, or a way for a miner to determine the work that they put in. But I think the cool thing about this is it's chain agnostic also. So I believe sort of some initial discussions have been had in regards to sort of solo miners and others in different chains being able to prove their work and settle it on Ergo. I think that's a huge sort of incentive and value add for the ecosystem. So Cheese has put a draft out. I dare say he'll have something a little bit more defined for his initial submission. I think he was looking for a lot of data to actually sort of have supporting evidence there for his proposal. But yeah, if you want to jump on there and have a read, he's actually got a pretty significant paper there put together.
Yeah, they put together a whole
huge
white
use case.
paper for a hackathon. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool one. Very excited. I didn't realize that it was chain agnostic. That's very interesting.
Yep. So not just benefiting Ergo, it could be utilized on any proof of work chain.
And the idea with that is it takes the trust out of that process, right? That's the whole
It's
idea
taking basically the trust out of the stratum or the mining pool itself, and it's basically putting it all on chain and kind of putting the power back in the miners' hands, kind of in the way where it's your info or your share submission, you're kind of in control of that, and you can see that basically all being submitted and verified on chain. So I think it's fantastic.
Nice. And then we had Sigma Rust JIT, which I think that was just getting Sigma Rust sort of on par with the upcoming 5.0 upgrades.
Yep.
Which is great.
Ergo.
You know, I said that as if it's not a good thing. It's not important. It's just sort of not like a sexy application, but it's super important. And once 5.0 rolls around in November or December, whenever that is, that'll be huge to have that Sigma Rust ready to go right out the gate.
Yeah, ties into what Joe always talks about in regards to the developer tooling and having everything up to date. So be having that ready to go when 5.0 does tick over in roughly maybe 6 weeks or so, end of November, start of December at this stage. So yeah, it'd be great to see.
And the last one, which I haven't seen a whole lot, so I can't really speak to it, but Mine Ergo, I know, is a woman who runs a small mining pool, and she was talking about trying to do some sort of NFT reward system for miners. But I don't know where that ended up, so maybe we'll see something, maybe we won't.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, additional incentives goes a long way. Then there's the Ergo, like Joe mentioned earlier about, I think that was integrating a Stratum server, I think, into the full node. Is that correct?
I don't know if that's what they actually did, but I know I had talked to him in the past about, trying to create a just green button solo mining. That would be the end goal.
That's what it says on the docs website, so I have a feeling that
awesome.
that's
be awesome if they came through. I've been poking them for too long.
Yeah.
That's a nice little overview of this current hackathon. So
there was also Ergo names.
You get Ergo names. Come on.
Yeah. And they'll play really nice with Dum Dum Dum.
Yeah.
Having your Ergo name as part of your Ergo social media Twitter thing. I
think it will also be very good for minting. If you can mint from your handle and you have, that as type of verification, I think it could go a long way in eliminating some of this sketchy shit that happens on the auction house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
And they've been working for quite a while now, and they've put together some really great SDKs, and they've got a lot of stuff. They're really trying to prepare for adoption from all the projects in the ecosystem and having everything ready to go so people can just plug and play. It's awesome. You should check out their GitHub.
Yeah, I think I saw a comment there from Nemo as well. Whoever Nemo is, the 50,000 leagues under the sea side of things.
The captain.
The captain. I think they've actually integrated Ergo names already or something along those lines. I remember reading something about it.
I believe they've done some testing.
Yeah. So yeah, it'd be cool to see. You could have you could send some some erg to noah.erg or armenio.erg. It'd be cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all of them. I think we covered every project.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
awesome.
think there's a couple there that I don't think they've actually provided any insight, or whether they've actually provided some documentation or even participated. I know there was a couple of registered. I think there was Raptor Mining and a couple of others that sort of
Yeah, it always
names slipped
happens.
my mind. So
You know, I love that. You know, people show up and they build, right?
Yeah.
And you know, hopefully, we'll see what ErgoHack 6 is all about. That's always kind of fun to say. Okay, what do we need now? What's next? Where to focus?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
it could
gonna do the YouTube thing and say leave a comment suggesting
Yeah,
what
leave a comment.
ErgoHack 6 should be about.
Yeah, we're always open to suggestions, and this one could be very open-ended also, because we have 5.0 being released, so there could be a number of sort of things that need to be built out, or people want to see sort of utilized in different aspects. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I could see like a scaling ErgoHack could be pretty interesting. Or like something along those lines.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a number of sort of things that we could kind of think about. I know off the top of my head, we've spoken about green button solutions, there's scaling, like you just said, dev tooling, zero knowledge sort of side of things in regards to sort of utilizing Sigma protocols. What else kind of comes to mind? I think one of the big ones, like for me personally, I'd like to sort of see is green button solutions, so people can kind of
Accessibility.
accessibility, yeah. Like the Umbrel side, seeing that being built out, where you can utilize, run a full node and then plug and play batching bots from different services. Yeah, number of sort of different things. I think we had the grid trading bots. So it'd be cool to see that sort of green buttoned and people being able to utilize and just put a number of sort of parameters in and set them off on their merry way. But yeah, it'd be pretty cool to watch everything sort of being built out in that respect. Well, that's my personal opinion anyway.
Nice caveat there.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. So easy your grandma can do it, ErgoHack style.
Yeah.
You know, that's cool.
That's what we'll call it.
So easy your grandma can do it.
ErgoHack 6. So easy your grandma can do it.
Yeah, that'll be the final test, right?
It's honestly not a bad idea. But anyway.
Are there any ideas or suggestions that you guys would like to see being built out?
I always say kick it to the community and the devs. Collectively, they know better than I do.
Oh man, yeah. It's the kind of thing where, you know, I feel like people are quick to point to areas where they think things need to be better or improved, but then it's so hard coming up with real ideas, and that's kind of what I was faced when I tried to come up with an idea for this ErgoHack. Is like, what can I actually do that will be useful and is actually achievable?
I think it's a great use case. Just ties into the education side of. Oh, that's another suggestion I could probably make.
Education would be a good
Education
ErgoHack.
and tooling, whether that's documentation or examples, like ErgoScript examples, tutorials. That could go a long way also.
Yeah, it could. You know, it's that's always a good idea. When you look at open source, you know, in a way, I kind of look at, like, let's just say the headphones on CW's head, right? You have multiple components that are sourced from multiple places. Like, it's to manufacture that isn't just a single input, right? You're drawing resources from all over the place and then assembling them, right? And the more that we build out, like, variety in terms of open source tooling, it just gives developers more resources to draw from and bring unique components together to create unique outcomes. So it's huge. It's not sexy, but it's huge in the end.
And then along the way, you make refinements and improvements. You might have a solution that's built a certain way, which could then be improved upon also, just by having someone run their eyes over it and think about things from a different perspective.
Absolutely.
All right, gents, I think we're coming up to time now. Is there any final words you want to have a say on basically the developer tooling side of things, or the ErgoHack itself?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to dive into what everybody's done. I'll let you know when judges decide.
Yeah, I'll just say everyone put in a lot of good work. Proud of all the community developers, and looking forward to seeing the results and looking forward to the next one.
Always.
Yep, very well said. For myself, definitely want to jump in there and see all the final submissions. That's sort of one thing that I've been hanging on. I've been following it sort of at a high level across the hack itself, but being able to jump in there and read about everything that everyone sort of accomplished, I think that's another highlight. I always enjoy sort of that side of things. As Noah mentioned, if you have any ideas, by all means, leave them in the comments below, and we can sort of put it out there and maybe even have a vote on what's upcoming for the next hackathon, or the ones after that also. So thanks again. Once again, it's been a pleasure talking to you both, gentlemen, and thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, have a good one, everyone.
See ya.
Take care. Have a good one.